So, what actually happens when you combine a highly concentrated chemical acid derived from tree bark with, like, the exact antimicrobial weapon your own white blood cells produce to fight off infections?
I mean, it sounds like some kind of experimental science fiction, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it is a real chemical reaction that you can trigger right on your face.
It really is. It's this incredible intersection of botanical chemistry and human immunology. Because, for a long time, the approach to skincare was basically just demolition.
Right, just nuking a breakout with the harshest chemicals available.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But when you look at the cellular biology of the skin barrier, it becomes obvious that treating it like a construction site you're trying to bulldoze, well, it just leads to chronic issues.
Welcome to today's deep dive. For you listening, we're pulling from an incredibly detailed, really comprehensive guide from the skincare company Era Organics.
Yeah, it's a great resource.
And our mission today is to decode the complex biology and chemistry behind mixing two specific powerhouse ingredients. We're talking about salicylic acid and hypochlorous acid.
Right. And we're going to map out exactly how you can effectively treat your skin without accidentally, destroying its natural barrier in the process.
Which is so easy to do.
Oh, absolutely. And to avoid that, we can't just list off trendy products. Effective skincare requires understanding why cellular mechanisms interact the way they do.
Because if you just start slapping things on...
Yeah, when you start mixing potent ingredients without grasping the underlying chemistry, you are genuinely rolling the dice with your skin's long-term health. Because in this specific routine, biological sequence is everything.
And sequence means starting with the heavy lifter. We have to look at the deep cleaner first, salicylic acid.
Right, also known as BHA, or beta-hydroxy acid.
Right, because this is the active ingredient you actually apply to your skin first before anything else.
Exactly. And the origins and physical properties of salicylic acid are what make it so functional. It's derived from the bark of the willow tree, specifically the species Salix alba.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and on a chemical level, it is classified as a monohydroxybenzoic acid. The source material emphasizes that it has a molecular weight of 138.12 grams per mole.
Okay, let's unpack this, because monohydroxybenzoic acid is a lot of syllables, and that 138.12 grams per mole number feels like something you'd memorize for a chemistry final and then just immediately forget.
I know, it sounds super dense.
Right. So I'm assuming that specific weight isn't just trivia. Like, does the size of the molecule dictate how it physically enters the skin?
It dictates literally everything about how it behaves.
Yeah.
That specific molecular weight, combined with its carbon ring structure, gives BHA its defining characteristic. It is highly lipophilic.
Meaning it's oil-soluble, right?
Exactly. Compare that to AHAs, alpha-hydroxy acids like glycolic or lactic acid. Those are water-soluble.
Okay, got it.
And your skin naturally produces sebum, which is a complex oil. Water and oil inherently repel each other. So if you apply water-soluble acid to an oily, congested pore, the acid literally cannot penetrate the sebum.
It just kind of sits there.
Right, it just pools on the surface. But BHA, because of its specific molecular structure, it bypasses the surface moisture and dissolves seamlessly into the lipid-rich environment of the follicle.
I love thinking of it like a microscopic plumber.
A microscopic plumber? Yeah, I like that.
Like if you have a clogged kitchen pipe filled with solidified grease, pouring cold water down the drain does absolutely nothing.
Well, nothing at all.
But BHA acts like a grease-dissolving enzyme. It just ignores the water, dives straight into those sebum-filled pipes, and starts breaking apart the keratin and oil plugs from the inside out.
That is a perfect analogy. And the clinical terms for your microscopic plumber are keratolytic and comedоlytic.
Keratolytic and comedоlytic.
Yeah, so when we say an ingredient is keratolytic, we mean it actively breaks down desmosomes. Desmosomes are essentially the biological Velcro.
The biological Velcro.
Right. They are the protein bridges that hold dead skin cells together. So by dissolving that Velcro, BHA forces the dead cells to detach. And then its comedоlytic action loosens the impacted sebum and cellular debris deep inside the follicle itself.
And acne-prone skin desperately needs that intervention, doesn't it? Because the guide points out that the cell turnover rate in acne-prone skin is like up to 30% slower than normal skin.
Yes, exactly. Up to 30% slower.
So those dead cells just hang around, overstaying their welcome, mixing with oil, and creating a physical plug.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, BHA intervenes at what dermatologists call the microcomedone stage.
What's a microcomedone?
A microcomedone is the microscopic invisible blockage that forms weeks before a pimple ever actually surfaces.
Oh, so it's way before you even see anything in the mirror.
Exactly. By restoring that shedding rate and dissolving the internal plug, BHA disrupts the formation of the lesion before it even triggers an immune response.
That's incredible. But once the BHA does its job, we kind of hit a wall, right?
We do, yeah.
Because it dissolved the plug, it cleared the physical blockage in the core, but we're left with a massive secondary problem. The pipe is clear, but the surface of the skin is still this inflamed, bacteria-rich environment.
Right. BHA is an exceptional exfoliant, but it is not primarily an antibacterial agent. You've removed the physical obstruction, but the localized bacteria are still heavily populating the area.
And the immune system is still freaking out about it.
Exactly. Your immune system is still actively detecting those pathogens, which means the inflammatory response, the redness, the swelling, the localized heat, that all continues.
So you basically have to introduce a second mechanism of action to address the biological environment.
You do. You have to handle the bacteria.
Which brings us to the second half of the routine. Hypochlorous acid, or HOCl.
Yes, the biological mimic.
We are moving from the mechanical exfoliating action of the tree bark extract to a biological immune-mimicking defense. And I'm just going to say it, the science of HOCl feels like a cheat code.
It really does.
Like, it's not a plant extract. It's literally naturally produced by your own white blood cells.
Specifically by your neutrophils. Neutrophils are the first responders of your immune system.
Okay.
When they detect an invading pathogen, they undergo a rapid, highly aggressive metabolic process called the respiratory burst.
Okay, wait, respiratory burst. If I'm visualizing this, I'm imagining the cell basically hyperventilating to produce a chemical weapon. What is the actual cellular machinery doing in that moment?
It's an intense chemical conversion. So the neutrophil consumes a massive amount of oxygen, using an enzyme to convert that oxygen into hydrogen peroxide.
Oh, okay.
Then it takes chloride ions, which are, abundant in the body's fluids, and combines them with hydrogen peroxide. This instant synthesis creates hypochlorous acid right at the site of infection.
That is wild.
And then the HOCl aggressively oxidizes the cell membranes of the invading bacteria. It literally strips electrons from the bacterial proteins, causing the pathogen structure to just collapse entirely.
And the specific pathogen we're targeting here is Cutibacterium acnes, right? Or C. acnes.
Yes, the primary driver of inflammatory acne.
Plus, HOCl neutralizes reactive oxygen species and free radicals. But how do we get that onto our skin from a bottle?
Good question.
Because the ERA Organics Guide mentions that topical formulations use a stabilized 0.02% concentration, like 200 parts per million, created through single-cell electrolysis. I need an ELI-5 on that because single-cell electrolysis sounds incredibly complex.
It sounds like rocket science, but the manufacturing process is essentially just reverse engineering the neutrophil.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In single-cell electrolysis, you start with highly purified water and sodium chloride. Basically just salt.
Salt water, right?
You pass a precise electrical current through that saltwater solution within a specialized membrane-divided cell. The electricity pulls the sodium and chloride ions apart and recombines the chloride with hydrogen and oxygen from the water.
And that makes the acid.
Exactly. The result is pure, stabilized hypochlorous acid without any of the toxic byproducts like bleach or lye that older manufacturing methods use to produce.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because I know what you're thinking if you're listening to this right now. We are talking about two acids.
Yes, we are.
BHA is salicylic acid. HOCl is hypochlorous acid. So if I just chemically exfoliated my pores, dissolved the biological Velcro holding my cells together, and then I spray another acid directly on top of raw skin, isn't doubling up on acids going to completely melt my face off?
It is the most common and logical fear when people look at this routine for the first time. We are conditioned to associate the word acid with chemical burns or, like, intense peeling.
Right, like a sci-fi movie.
Exactly. But acid just refers to where a compound sits on the pH scale. Hypochlorous acid is a weak inorganic acid. It operates at a near-neutral pH, typically between 4 and 6.
And the skin's natural surface, like the acid mantle, sits right in that pocket, doesn't it?
Yeah.
At a pH of 4.5 to 5.5.
Correct. So HOCl perfectly matches the environment your skin naturally maintains to protect itself. It doesn't exfoliate. It doesn't dissolve proteins.
So it's not doing the same job as the BHA at all?
Not at all. What's fascinating here is that HOCl performs this massive, heavy-duty antimicrobial oxidation without relying on alcohol, sulfates, or synthetic preservatives.
Which usually burn like crazy.
Right. When you use traditional acne treatments, like an alcohol-based antibacterial toner, the alcohol kills the bacteria, but it also strips the lipid barrier and dehydrates the tissue.
Causing that intense stinging sensation everyone hates.
Exactly. But HOCl kills the bacteria while being completely biocompatible. Your skin cells don't mount a defense against it because they recognize it as part of their own immune arsenal.
So we basically have two distinct pathways here.
We do.
We have the DHA, our oil-soluble plumber clearing out the follicle, and we have HOCl, our gentle, immune-mimicking antimicrobial sanitizing the surface.
Right.
If we connect this to dermatology-based programs, it becomes really obvious why combining them breaks the recurring cycle of acne, because creating only one part of the cycle is just a losing battle.
Completely. Acne is driven by a triad: bacterial overgrowth, excess sebum production, and the inflammatory skin response.
So single-ingredient approaches just fail because they leave at least one leg of that triad completely intact.
Yes.
Let's break down the logic of that for a second. If you only use BHA to clear the pore, but you skip the antibacterial step, the C. acnes bacteria are still just thriving on the surface of your skin.
Just waiting to dive right back in.
Exactly. It's waiting to dive into the newly cleared pore and trigger a brand new lesion.
Right.
But if you flip it around and you only use an antibacterial like HOCl, you might kill the surface bacteria, but that anaerobic sebum-filled plug is still sitting deep in the follicle. You've left the perfect oxygen-free breeding ground intact.
And it's just a matter of time before bacteria colonize it again. The clinical reality is that you must dismantle the environment and the pathogen simultaneously.
Which is where the synergy comes in.
Right. BHA handles the physical environment, but it also does something crucial on a chemical level. It reduces prostaglandin synthesis.
Okay, wait. Prostaglandins, those are the lipid compounds that act like biological alarm bells, right?
Yes, exactly.
How do those signals actually travel and cause the redness we see in the mirror?
So when tissue is damaged or infected, enzymes create prostaglandins, which then bind to receptors on the smooth muscle of your local blood vessels.
Okay.
They force those blood vessels to dilate and become permeable. Fluid and white blood cells rush into the tissue, creating the visible swelling and redness. BHA suppresses the enzymes that create those prostaglandins deep in the follicle.
Oh, so it stops the swelling before it even starts.
Yes, and then HOCl comes in and calms the cytokine-driven redness on the surface.
Cytokines are another class of signaling proteins, right, that amplify the immune response.
Exactly. HOCl oxidizes them, effectively turning off the alarm system entirely.
That's amazing. And HOCl is basically acting as a recovery agent for the BHA at the same time.
It is, yeah.
Because when BHA exfoliates the skin, it temporarily thins the stratum corneum, the outermost layer. The skin is suddenly way more vulnerable to environmental stress, and free radicals can accumulate.
Right, which causes damage.
But HOCl neutralizes those free radicals at the freshly exfoliated surface, preventing oxidative damage while the barrier recovers.
It's a sophisticated biological synergy, but that synergy relies entirely on molecular stability.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the most critical failure point for users.
Right. Knowing the biology is totally useless if user error ruins it.
Absolutely.
The guide is incredibly specific about the chemistry of layering. Like, if you don't sequence these two products correctly on your face, they will chemically cancel each other out.
They will completely neutralize each other.
So Era Organics provides a strict 5-step routine to prevent this volatile chemical clash. Step 1 is use a gentle cleanser. Step 2, apply your BHA to completely dry skin.
Crucial step.
Step 3, wait 5 to 10 minutes. Step 4, mist the HOCl spray and let it dry completely. And then step 5, apply moisturizer and SPF in the morning.
That protocol is strictly engineered around absorption rates and maintaining specific chemical concentrations.
So what does this all mean? Let's zero in on step 3, because waiting 5 to 10 minutes in the middle of a skincare routine is where most people tap out.
It's true. Nobody wants to wait.
People wash their face, apply the acid, immediately spray the mist, rub in the lotion, and go to bed. Why is that wait time a biological non-negotiable?
Because applying the products back-to-back destroys their chemical efficacy. If you apply a water-based HOCl mist over wet BHA that hasn't fully penetrated the follicle, the water dilutes the acid.
I see. It's like trying to clean a heavily greased pan with a tiny drop of soap and cold water. You're just moving a diluted, ineffective mess around the surface.
That's exactly it. The BHA won't reach the required depth, and the HOCl's concentration drops below the 200 parts per million necessary to oxidize the C. acnes bacteria.
So it just stops working.
Completely. Furthermore, the final step, applying moisturizer, presents another chemical conflict if you rush it. Yeah. If you apply a complex, lipid-rich moisturizer over wet HOCl. You give the hypochlorous acid entirely new compounds to interact with.
Oh, no. So it attacks the lotion.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
It will oxidize the ingredients in your moisturizer instead of the bacteria in your skin, neutralizing the formulation before it completes its antimicrobial task.
Wow. You essentially disarm your own white blood cells weapon by burying it in lotion before it can fire.
You do. And this raises an important question. What happens when users get impatient, rush the routine, dilute the chemicals, and then get frustrated that they are still breaking out?
I know exactly what happens. They blame the product.
They always do.
They assume 0.5 per ton BHA is too weak, so they go buy a 2% BHA and start aggressively scrubbing it on their face twice a day.
Which is a disaster.
Which forces us to look at the final and really the most critical warning from the sources. We have to talk about the physical limits of human cellular regeneration. What happens when chemical exfoliation outpaces biology?
You enter a state of barrier failure. Human skin operates on a strict timeline. The natural epidermal cell cycle. The time it takes for a new keratinocyte to be born to the basal layer, travel up through the epidermis, flatten out, and eventually shed, it takes between 28 to 40 days.
Okay, wait. I want to push back on this a little because I know people listening are thinking this right now. If my skin's goal is to shed dead cells anyway, why does speeding it up destroy the barrier?
It seems counterintuitive, I know.
Right. Shouldn't a faster cycle just mean cleaner, newer skin?
That assumes the cells are purely structural, like bricks in a wall. But keratinocytes are active factories.
Factories.
Yes. During that 28 to 40-day journey, they are synthesizing and releasing essential lipids. We're talking ceramides, cholesterol, and fatty acids.
Okay.
These form the mortar that holds moisture inside your skin. So if you aggressively apply a 2% BHA daily and force those cells to the surface in, say, 15 days, they arrive immature. They haven't produced the necessary lipid mortar.
Oh, wow. So you've built a wall without cement.
Precisely. You have no mortar.
And the immediate consequence of that missing cement is what the sources call transepidermal water loss, right? Or TEWL.
Yes, TEWL.
Without the lipid matrix trapping moisture inside, the water in your skin simply evaporates right into the surrounding air.
And the clinical result is raw, sensitized skin that cannot defend itself against environmental pathogens.
And here's the tragic irony for you, the listener, in all of this. In your desperate, rushed attempt to clear your skin, ignoring the biological speed limit of 28 days strips the barrier and causes the exact opposite result.
It really does.
Your skin becomes profoundly dehydrated. To compensate for the sudden loss of water, your sebaceous glands panic and pump out a massive surge of rebound oil.
And then that excess oil mixes with the compromised inflamed tissue,
Leading to more redness and much more severe breakouts.
You trigger a completely self-inflicted cycle of trauma. And, we must also note the medical limits outlined for specific skin conditions here.
Right, there are some warning.
Yes. Because BHA is structurally similar to acetylsalicylic acid, which is aspirin, individuals with aspirin sensitivities must perform patch tests to avoid severe contact dermatitis.
Good to know.
Additionally, for those with rosacea-prone skin, the blood vessels are already hyperreactive. Using BHA more than once or twice a week can permanently exacerbate vascular dilation. Physician oversight in those cases is strongly advised.
So the ultimate solution here isn't a stronger acid, it's patience.
It is. You have to facilitate the 28-day cellular clock, not fade it. Start the BHA at a 0.5% concentration to assess tolerance. If using a 2% formulation, limit it to 2 to 3 times a week.
But the HOCl mist can be used more often.
Yes, the HOCl mist should be used daily. It gently manages the bacterial load and supports the barrier while the tissue slowly adapts to the increased exfoliation rate.
Okay, let's bring this all together. If you've been tracking with us, you now possess a scientifically backed, highly specific two-step blueprint for clear skin.
A very powerful blueprint.
You know exactly how to clear the biological pipes of your pores using an oil-soluble willow bark extract that dissolves the protein Velcro holding dead cells together.
Yeah.
You know how to deploy your white blood cells' absolute favorite weapon to sanitize the surface, oxidize bacteria, and shut down inflammatory signals. And most importantly, you know how to sequence them while respecting your body's non-negotiable 28-day regenerative limit.
It is a fundamentally elegant approach to skin health. You're shifting away from attacking the tissue and moving toward manipulating the cellular environment to do exactly what it evolved to do.
Which leaves me with one final thought to ponder for you listening. It's something that wasn't explicitly covered in the guide, but it feels like the inevitable next step based on everything we've unpacked today. If we have successfully figured out how to bottle, stabilize, and topically apply hypochlorous acid, like the exact bioidentical weapon our immune system naturally deploys, what does this mean for the future of medicine?
Wow. Well, it challenges the entire paradigm of external pharmaceuticals.
Exactly. Could the future of treating chronic diseases or massive wounds move completely away from harsh external drugs?
It's definitely possible.
We already know traditional antibiotics are causing massive global resistance. What if the next era of medicine shifts entirely toward synthesizing and deploying the body's own localized immune responses? Imagine treating a severe infection and healing the body without it even realizing it's receiving outside help, simply because the medicine is biologically indistinguishable from the body itself.
We would be stepping out of an era of chemical suppression and into an era of true biological mirroring.
Putting down the sledgehammer and working with the blueprint. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.